Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of SacTown Movie Buffs. As always, I'm Kier, and this is Jason. And today we have a special guest. We have Derik, who's going to be joining us today. He's also local here in the area. He's actually out in Elk Grove, California, which is maybe about 20-minute drive away from Sacramento. He's going to be joining us today. We're going to be doing a special kind of a going into the New Year's topic where we're going to be talking about upcoming films, 2021 films, movie theaters in general, and then kind of like what's happening with COVID-19 and the effects of what that's going to do to the industry as well. So first of all, we just want to thank you for joining us, Derik. How's everything going today?
It's going really well. Thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it.
Exactly. No, not a problem. Not a problem. I know that we kind of corresponded through another chat through our through the podcast, and I say, well, if you're local, we definitely have to get together and do something and kind of go from there. So
certainly.
How's everything going with you today, Jason?
Oh, good. I'm having some technical difficulties with my computer right now, but otherwise things are going all right.
Well, good. Well, we're working through the challenges. So, like I said, it's COVID-19, so there's always going to be some challenges one way or another. So, we're working through it, but glad to obviously have you on board as well. So, and Derik, you the name of your just in case anybody's listening, the name of your podcast is called Hindsight
Movie Reviews. So
Hindsight Movie Reviews.
I actually do 8 podcasts, and one of my babies is Hindsight Movie Reviews, which is where my one of my internet besties, Brandon, and I, we watch movies that we saw when we were kids from the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s.
Okay.
And then we watch them again as adults to see if it still holds up, and I can tell you that most of them don't. The last movie that we did that'll be coming out this Sunday will be, well, the last movie that came out was Die Hard, which is seminal classic. We had no arguments. But the one we just finished recording was Home Alone, which is, can we cuss or no? It's flarking horrible. It's horrible. And it's not horrible. It's a good movie, but Kevin is a demon child. And nobody recognized that when we were kids. But that kid, like, I can see why they left him. It was totally on purpose. They just wanted a good private vacation.
Right. Jason, you got some thoughts on that before we get into the 2021 in terms of rewatching films from your childhood and watching, because you generally love them still, right? Or
yeah, pretty much anything that I enjoyed when I was a kid, I can still enjoy for the most part. There are a few that I don't think hold up, like the Goonies is one that I loved when I was a kid. But I can't get into it anymore. I can't get into that one. But most of them that I enjoyed when I was a kid, I can still enjoy. Home Alone was never like a huge favorite for me, so I'm not that sentimental about it. I don't love it. I don't dislike it. So I can't passionately defend that one or anything like that.
I will have to keep you in mind for when this next month we have like a block of movies that we do each month. And so next month is bad rapper movies like Belly, and Cold as Ice. But the next month after that, we're doing 80s movies. And one of the movies we're doing is The Goonies.
Oh, really?
So I may have to call upon you to join us.
Yeah.
Because the last time I saw it, I loved it to pieces. So I'm scared witless now.
Yeah. It is interesting,
Yeah. So did I.
Yeah. For me, it's interesting because I usually rewatch them with like my son or like my stepkids and that sort of stuff. And just to kind of see what they think about some of these 80s movies, having not grown up in that era. And a lot of times they do seem bored, or they seem like the movies are dated. Which I can kind of understand, because sometimes I'll see movies from like the 70s or the 60s, that people will say, this movie was a masterpiece or this movie was action packed, you know what I mean? And then I'll watch it like Bullet or something like that. Bullet was like one, they're like, oh, the car chases are amazing. It's action packed. And I was bored to death watching it. You know what I mean? I was like, yeah, Steve McQueen looked cool in it. But, when I watched the film, I was like, I'm kind of bored. This scene feels kind of dated. You know what I mean? So I do understand. I can understand how that, because we grew up with those movies. So there's a lot for me that I feel like they're just kind of staples where, I grew up with it and I'm probably always going to have, some sentimental place for me near and dear in my heart, just because, it's a film that I grew up with. I watched it, as a kid and, and it's kind of rare for me to watch a film as a kid and then haven't seen it for 20 years and then try to rewatch it again. Usually I've watched it a few times over the years. So I never really got that, oh, this is terrible now kind of feeling. But I haven't seen Home Alone in many years actually. So who knows? Maybe I watch that one and it's not as up there as I originally thought that it was, when I was a kid. So
it's a different world when you see it as a kid, see it as an adult. Like, for example, Kier, have you seen House Party ever in your life?
Yes, I just showed it to my son about a month and a half ago. So as an adult, that part where they break Play's mom's toilet is infuriating. Right. Right. Yeah.
And that's when I first thought about I should really do this show, because I'm feeling things for these movies that I didn't feel initially when I first saw them. And I think it will be interesting to just come at it from a different angle. We talk about how we felt when we first saw it. Most of the movies that we saw, I saw them when I was 8. For New Jack City, I literally saw it in the movie theater, the State Theater, where there were gunfire happening during the film. People were shooting in the air like it was a Wild Wild West.
Right.
To see it again as a 40-year-old was completely different with the silence of no gunshots. So, just that sort of thing.
Right. No. I definitely think that's a fair point and fair criticism. But I mean, it's kind of hard, and I think in both ways, because the technology today is better. I can't always say the acting's necessarily better, but I feel like we're more critical of acting as adults than we were as kids. So I'll watch a movie today, with a group of kids, and I'll kind of be like, so-and-so wasn't really that good of an actor in that film. They could have casted somebody else in that part. Whereas when I'm 8 or 10, you know what I mean? I'm not looking at that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm not even thinking about that. I'm just thinking the Goonies, it looks cool. They're going on this awesome treasure hunt. You know what I mean? This is fun. You know what I mean? I would love to be able to, use all these wacky gadgets and go on a treasure hunt and find some hidden treasure and stuff like that. But, as an adult, you're like, some of the acting was a little questionable, and then some of the I still like the Goonies though. Don't get me wrong, I still like it. I'll still watch it. It's still one that I own in my collection, so I don't dislike it by any means. But there are definitely some things that I can see as an adult that I would be like, as a kid, maybe I gave it 5 stars out of 5, but as an adult, I'm going to be a little bit more critical and be like, okay, it's a good movie, but it's probably not 5 stars. If I'm giving it 5 stars, it's off a sentimental value. That's just how I feel. So.
And one thing that we strive to do is we don't give number reviews for these movies, because they're all movies we loved when we were growing up. Now we're just literally just looking at them again and honestly making fun of them.
No, I definitely understand that for sure. Well, I say we get into unless you had anything to add, Jason, about the 80s versus now comparisons. So, no? All right. Okay. Well, let's get into 2021. So,
no.
All right. Cool. Well, so I'm of a difference of opinion, I think, than Jason in terms of what's going to happen with this COVID situation. Clearly, we know that next year is going to be pretty much a wrap at the theaters for the most part. I don't think that there's going to be a lot of films that are going to come out, at least in the first half of the year, because everything's still going to be locked down. Even with the vaccines, everybody's not even going to get a chance to even take the vaccines until probably April or May. And then some people have to go back. They have those 2 vaccines where you got to take one and then you got to take a second one at a later time. So I don't foresee that this COVID thing is going to be gone anytime soon, for at least the first half of the year. So I'm gonna venture to say that most films that were slated to come out in 2020 that they pushed back for 2021, are going to be streaming in some capacity probably
Mm-hmm.
next year. The question is do you guys agree with that? Is that a fair statement, or either one of you guys can take that? Your thoughts, Jason?
Oh, yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I agree that this definitely the current state and the near future state of movies is going to be streaming for sure. You know, just for practical reasons, because people can't go to the movie theater, or most can't. But I think where you and I might disagree is where like the more permanent ramifications.
Right. You kind of think that things are at some point just going to go back to like business as usual at the theaters, whereas I think that some of these studios are already starting to get invested in streaming, and they're making money off of the streaming avenue. And I think that some of them, they're going to have long-term plans to do streaming versus trying to get their films into theaters. That's my take. I don't know, Derek. You can chime in and kind of give you your insight or what you think.
I feel like the Pandora's box has been opened, and it's not a bad thing that it's been opened, because a lot of people, myself included, don't like other people's kids, and people keep bringing their kids into movie theaters even when I don't want them to. Like, they refuse to listen to me when I ask them not to bring their kid into a movie theater I'm in, but they don't care anyways. So me being able to sit at home and watch this movie in the comfort of my own home is extremely appealing to me. Me being able to pause the movie when I go to the restroom instead of rushing through because I feel like I'm going to miss something is extremely appealing. Like Wonder Woman. If I was at the movie theater and I left to use a restroom, there's parts of that movie in that beginning that if I missed it, parts of the movie at the end, while they would make sense, wouldn't make as much sense, without spoiling anything. So I don't want to miss a thing when I pay for a movie. I don't want to miss I want to be immersed. And even though I'm missing the opportunity to sit and watch a film on a 100-foot screen, or however big a movie theater screen is, and sit back with my feet up and eat popcorn, I'm willing to exchange that for the opportunity to watch a movie in the sanctity of my own home, where I can literally do whatever I need to be comfortable and not have to worry about COVID. That's very important to me. Like, I don't want COVID. I don't like COVID at all. Like, I'm going to get the vaccines as soon as I can. I'm going to get 5 of them just so I can cough on other people and make sure they get it. So, yeah, no, I'll stay at home. Even when the theaters open back up, it's going to take a long time before I go back into a movie theater, period.
Yeah. And, and I think that's where Jason and I are disagreeing, because the people that I've talked to, they've gotten comfortable with watching films at home. Obviously the costs, because before you didn't, Netflix has always been around for a while, and Amazon has been around for a while, but now you're starting to get big marquee films like a Wonder Woman, whether you liked it or not. I'm not going to get into that conversation on this, but Wonder Woman and some of these other big films are starting to stream, and supposedly they're making money based off the streaming. So if I'm a studio, I'm like, well, why take the chance of going to the theaters when I can just stream it, and people are paying for the service, and HBO is going to pay the production company the money for the rights to the film, and however they work out that deal, they get paid in that capacity. I don't know. I think that, and I get that the going out to a movie is a family affair. I get that people enjoy going on date night dinner and a movie and that kind of stuff. I think that once COVID is over, I think that there will be people that will go out for that nostalgia. But I think that people also enjoy, like you're kind of to your point, that they are going to enjoy to be at home and to be able to watch it on streaming and be able to pause it if they want to, be able to make their own popcorn and just have date night at home or have movie night at home and that kind of stuff. I mean, it's hard enough just to get kids out of the house in general, because kids today don't even go outside. So they're fine with just watching a movie at the house. You know what I mean? Like, hey, it's family night. You guys want to watch a movie? They're fine with that. So I don't know. I think that once COVID is over, I think that there still will be theaters. But I don't think that it's going to be what it was prior.
I mean, I truly believe that they have made so many inroads with this past year. Like 2020 has been a horrible year, but the things they've done to expand social distance communication with Zoom and with everything they're doing is absolutely incredible. And one of the things they came up with are programs where you can literally watch a show. It's called Scener, SCENER. If you get on Scener and you have an app or you have a program and the people you want to watch a show with also have the program, y'all can all watch Wonder Woman 1984 around the world at the same exact time on the same exact screen using this app, and then laugh about it or talk about it with each other in real time. You can't do that in a movie theater. I have best friends because we podcast out in Baltimore. I have best friends in Los Angeles. I have friends in Korea. I can never watch a movie with them at the same time. But with the advent of COVID, they had to come up with some new things for people to feel that same closeness and connection. This is amazing. One of the things I know somebody did recently was they got all their friends together, like 400 friends, so really followers and people who were interested, and they watched Soul together on this app and talked about it and had a great time, and then put the podcast out about it with everybody discussing it and saying what their thoughts were. So it's a whole new world. And movie theaters, I'm sorry, but they are literally going the way of Dimple Records, Tower Records, and Sam Goody, in which they didn't see the signs before it hit them in the face, and it's going down.
Jason's going to be of a different opinion on that. Jason?
Yeah. I don't disagree that all of these things you're talking about are I love convenience. I love watching movies in the comfort of my own home. These new inventions that people have come up with to allow people to watch things together over great distances, that's awesome. I really do. I mean, those things aren't going to go away, but I do think that maybe I'm overly optimistic about it, but I think the movies, the cinema is like an institution, and it's been around for 100 years and more. And I think we're social animals as people, you know what I mean? So I think, sorry, what?
I said, so we're record stores though. Record stores were around for eons, and then they're pretty much gone. You know what I mean? We might have had.
Well, I don't think that's exactly the same thing. Yeah, I don't think that's exactly the same thing. And I can tell there's a little bit of a delay, and I apologize. But I think the movies are an institution, and I do think that I don't think that 1 year, maybe 2 years of this kind of disruption, it's going to change things, but I don't think it's going to send them away. I don't think it's going to send them away, mostly because I think people are. Honestly, I think there's going to be, whatever theaters do end up surviving, I think they're going to see a boom in business once the vaccinations are out there on a wide scale, because I think people are can't wait to go out and have social experiences again. I know I can't wait to go out to restaurants with friends again. I can't wait to go out to the movies with friends. Like Kiara, you and I used to, before all this, not that long ago, 10 months ago, we're going out to movies in large groups of friends. And I think everybody is having those feelings. So I think once things are all right and the businesses that will have survived, I think they'll see a huge boom in business. It doesn't mean people will stop doing these other things, these great, across great distances gatherings. But I think that theaters will survive, because I think it's something that's been going for 100 and more years. It's been a huge thing for 100 and more years for people to go do together. And I don't think it's just going to go away because of a year or two that people have had to be more creative than usual with it. You know what I mean?
I hear what you're saying, and I'm not arguing that there won't be any theaters at all, but I do think that theaters are going to be at a much more limited capacity. I don't think that it's going to be what it was prior to COVID-19. I think that we're already seeing theaters on the brink of bankruptcy. So I don't even know, to your point, I don't know how many theaters are even going to survive this thing, depending on how long this goes. So I think there's that. I think that there will be an initial rush once, things are lifted. I think there will be an initial rush for people who want to go back to theaters and do that. But I think that people are at some point, but that's going to be out of nostalgia. I think that at some point people are going to make a decision that it's going to be easier and more convenient, especially if I already know for a fact that some movie theaters or some production companies are already willing to start streaming things directly, and not just for next year. DC, we were just having this conversation beforehand. DC, they've already said that they're going to start rolling out two DC films every single year on HBO Max. That's moving forward. So that's already starting to happen. They've already made that decision that every year they're going to roll out two big blockbuster, Superman, Batman films on streaming on HBO Max. So it's already starting. So they're already starting to move in that direction. It's just a matter of time before other studios start seeing that and say, you know what, we're going to follow suit on that as well. I can already see Marvel deciding to do the same thing on Disney Plus, because they're going to get money from the streaming. They already own the rights to it. So why wouldn't they start streaming films to Disney Plus? Just like with Soul and all their other animated features, because they're making good money off of that. So I don't know. I think that best case scenario, you're going to see a dual thing where you'll have films that you can pay for the subscription and you can watch it on whatever it is, HBO Max, or you can go to the theater, and people are going to be pulled both ways. I think that's probably more likely what's going to happen. But I don't think it's going to come back to what it was prior to COVID. I just don't see it. Theaters are already moving in the streaming direction. With Marvel, like I said, owning the rights, being owned by Disney, they're already set up to do big numbers on that. Supposedly, I don't know what the numbers were, but supposedly Wonder Woman was a huge hit on that. And you can argue, well, that's because everybody's stuck at home. But I think they're gonna bank on people wanting to stay home and watch movies. That's my take.
Yeah, well, I see that, but I just I lost my train of thought there. But I don't know. I think it feels that way because there's no other option right now. But however long it takes for there to get to a point where you can go out with your friends and family to restaurants, when you can go out to the movies with your family and friends, when you can go out to bars with people, it feels like it's never going to come back because there's not even an option to do that right now. But when there is, I think a lot of people are going to feel like doing that again, and I think that will bring things back. I don't think it's quite the same as a record store because that was a precipitous thing. That's a lot longer than a year and a half to go out of fashion. You know what I mean? And people like me still like going to record stores when we can find them. So
right, but like I said, you're basing it off of your own experience. I bet if you and I had the same conversation 10 years ago or 15 years ago about Blockbuster and Hollywood Video, that those are always going to be around. I don't think we would have foresaw that they were going to be no longer existence with the invention of streaming. Before streaming came on the scene, nobody predicted that was going to happen. So streaming is definitely ruining the internet in general, is just ruining how people go about their day-to-day lives. I just think that people are going to start moving in that direction. It's the same thing with, malls and that sort of stuff. And even with restaurants, even before COVID, Postmates and Uber Eats and all that stuff was popular even before COVID. And it's just been amped up now. People are starting to like that convenience of just deliver the food to me. I'm not saying that people won't still go to restaurants because, even I've been to restaurants during COVID. But I don't know. I think that it's going to be at a lesser capacity. And I think that you're underestimating people's willingness to stay home outside of wanting to go to the theater, for a family. And it's just you. That's the other thing you're not considering. People with families, you got a family of 3 kids. Yeah, it's nice every once in a while to go take kids out to the theaters. But for a family of 4 or 5, that could be $100 experience versus a streaming online and paying, whatever the streaming service is, or $19.99. The whole family can watch it and you guys can make popcorn at the house. I think there's a lot of people that will be in favor of that on a day-to-day basis. And I don't think that you're recognizing that those people that have families, which, they're probably like, you know what, put an extra $100 in my pocket and watch it online, family night, with the kids. I'd rather do that. I think there's going to be people that are going to want to do that more often than take the whole family to the theaters. I'm not saying that they won't go. I'm just saying it's going to be like, okay, we'll go to the theaters this month, but next month we're going to stream that film. You know what I mean? Because I'm not paying $100 for all you kids to go to the theaters and get the popcorn and the overpriced drinks and all that kind of stuff. So, and I've had conversations with people about that specifically that have kids, which, you don't have kids. So I don't know if you see that connection, but people that I've talked to that have kids, they have already told me that, like, no, they prefer to watch at home with the streaming because it saves money and it saves them money. They'd rather save their money for most films. Maybe they go to the theater once every 6 months with the kids, but they'd rather sit at home and do it that way. Just my thought. I don't know, Derek, you have kids, right? So
yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I figured Jason probably has something to say about that, so I'm gonna wait.
Yeah.
It's true. I don't have kids, and I don't know. Maybe I'm just being, because I am old fashioned. I still buy CDs. I still buy
even I've made that
DVDs.
switch. Even I haven't bought a CD in 10 years almost. So
yeah.
You know what I mean. So,
I just love going to record stores. I don't know. I just think I think it feels that way because there's no other option right now, and those are the only people that we're hanging out with right now. But I think as soon as I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I just think it'd be a little bit sad if we're all just sitting inside looking at screens all day. It feels to me like the first step toward like WALL-E. Where everybody is just hooked up to a screen, looking at it all day long, and not even recognizing that there's somebody right next to them. So I mean, maybe I'm just overly optimistic or old fashioned, but I think it'll go back to that. I really do.
My argument is we're already moving. We're already moving in that direction, though. That's my argument. We're already headed towards the WALL-E direction. You're already, you don't go to rent movies anymore. Now you rent them on your apps or on your television. Now you rent those, so that's already going in that direction. So you're already staying home for that. A lot of people were already starting to get food ordered for their house. So you're already seeing people with Postmates and that kind of stuff. So people don't want to leave the house. So you're already seeing that. Online shopping, that's already a big thing. I mean, the last 3 Christmases, I did probably 90% of my shopping online. I didn't go to the stores and buy it. So you're already seeing people preferring to be at home. It'd be just the thing. Like when we were kids, going to the mall was an awesome, cool thing. Now people don't care about that anymore. That's not a cool thing. You don't go to the mall to meet people anymore. You know what I mean? So that's the same thing. It's like when we were kids, that was like the cool, hot thing. You would go to the mall, you would hang out with your friends, you would go get slushies and shop and whatever you're going to do. Now people would prefer just order it online. I don't want to go to the mall and be around all these people. I don't want to, that was before COVID. People did not want it. So we are becoming more antisocial as a society. So I think that's the one thing, and that goes back to what was that documentary that we saw, the social dilemma, where people are becoming more antisocial as a society, and going to the movies, even though you're not talking, that's still a social thing. That's still in that realm where people are gonna, if you give them the option to stream a film versus going physically, getting dressed and going out and getting in their car and going to the theater and buying their tickets for $20 a pop, and then spending, $20-$30 for popcorn and candy. I think a lot of people on most nights are going to be like, can we just stream that? You know what I mean? I think that's what people are. We're moving in that WALL-E direction. Even jobs now. A lot of these jobs, my fiance's job, they're basically saying, hey, we're not even going to bring you guys back in. If things are working so well for you guys working at home, we're just going to continue having you guys work from home versus having you come into the office. So society is already moving in a stay-at-home capacity at this point, and I think that movies is going to get swept up in that as well. I think that there will be those who still want to go to theaters, but I think that people, especially people with families and kids, are going to want to stay home most days and stream.
As much as I love streaming, I also just as much love the movie theater. And it's strange to say I love both because, like I said, I hate when people bring their kids into a movie. But in this day and age, not a lot of people are going to the movies at the time I'm going to the movies. And so it's a place of solitude. If the movie theaters were to die tomorrow, let's be honest, there are so many movies that you would miss out on. I have Regal Unlimited. And one of the things that I loved before I had Regal Unlimited, I had cinema. And before I had cinema, I had Movie Pass. And one of the things I loved about it was the opportunity to just say, you know what, eeny, meeny, miny, I'm going to see this movie. And that's how I saw a bunch of movies I would have never saw. That's how I saw Emma. That's how I saw, and I hate the name of this movie, that's how I saw Gook. That's how I saw a lot of great tear-jerking movies. That's how not 1917, but there was another movie where a guy was going and talking to older retired military vets about something that happened. And it came out this past year and it was great. And all the Blumhouse horror movies, I saw all of those and they were great. And it's just the opportunity and experience in a movie theater is unmatched by anything you can do at home. But the comfort you can have at home is unmatched by anything they can offer you in a movie theater. And the movie theater is trying to catch up with that comfort level in that they will bring you food and you can have the reclinable seats and all that kind of stuff.
And why are they doing that? And that goes back to my point. Why are they doing that? Because
they're doing it because they know that they're losing steps to, like, our generation and above will go to the movies without any issue. My son will pause his game and stream a movie and then go back to playing. Shoot. My son and his friends watched a live concert happen on Fortnite. Why do they need to go to the movies? Why do they need to go to a concert? Why do they need to do anything when they're putting it right there in front of them? So they're actually, movie theaters are reaching out to our generation. They're reaching out to us and trying to get us to keep going because they know we still feel that pang of joy when those trailers come on. We still feel that happiness when you see something happen and that boom happens in the background in the theater that you just can't get at home. People at home don't freak out about movies the way I freak out about movies. So when I go to a movie theater, I'm amongst friends. Like, I don't know them, but they all love movies the way I love movies because at this point in time, unless it's a big Marvel or a big DC movie, the folks who are in the movie theater are movie buffs and movie nerds just like me.
And that's my point. And that's a point I was going to make. It's the cinephiles, the movie buffs, the movie nerds that are going to continue to go, just as it's the same people that are continue to go to a record store and buy records. The younger generation, unless they're straight cinephiles, they don't care whether they go to the theater necessarily or whether they stream it online. They don't care.
And folks like Netflix or companies like Netflix have been waiting for this moment because they can't get awards in the theaters because they're Netflix. But
they are now.
At this point in time, they are now the big dogs on the block. And I understand. I'm okay with both sides. Like, I see both. I've never thought I'd say this in a sentence. Both sides are good. Like, I love the theater. But I am also going to love every opportunity that I have to fall asleep on my couch while I'm watching a movie and know I can rewind. Because yes, as a member of Regal Unlimited, there were times that I would go to the movie theater at like 7 o'clock at night and be like, all right, baby, I'm going to the movie. She said, all right, I'm about to watch whatever reality TV show she was going to watch at that time. And I go to the movies and I watch a 2-hour movie that she would never want to watch. And I come home and fall asleep with her and it will be great. Sometimes I fall asleep during the movie, like Hotel Artemis, which was horribly boring to me. I fell asleep during the movie. And when it was done, I woke up refreshed and went home and went back to sleep. But
yeah,
at home, if I fall asleep, I can pause a movie. In the movie theater, if I pause a movie, that's just a missed opportunity. Like maybe Hotel Artemis would have been great if I just stayed up another 3 minutes. I will never know because I am so jaded towards it now that I won't watch it again.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I know and Jason can attest to this, we both have fallen asleep during the theaters. I mean, and having that convenience of that 48-hour rental or stream and being able to go back to it again, I don't know, there's something to be said about that. So to your point, I think that there's, and then the other thing that I was going to bring up, so yeah, the big budget blockbusters, the Wonder Womans, the Marvel films, the Fast and Furious films, I think that those films will still do great. I think those films are going to still pack a house. They're still going to sell out because everybody and their grandma's going to want to go.
Mm-hmm.
The indie films, the middle of the road films, the films that are on the bubble,
the foreign films,
I think a lot of those films are going streaming. I just, because if I'm a studio and I have the option, it's an indie film that we purchase the rights to. We don't think that it's maybe it's an Oscar type caliber film, possibly, but it's an independent film. Why would I throw that in theaters where it's going to have to compete against this, $50 million blockbuster that's coming out? I think that if I'm a theater and if I'm a production company, I think I'm going to stream it, and anybody that wants to see it is going to watch it streaming. I'm not going to take that risk. So that alone is going to cut down some of the profits, some of the theater watching.
But imagine a world where there's no theater at all. Like there's theater. No. Imagine that there's like a place where all the movies immediately go streaming. Imagine that. Parasite would never have won an award.
I don't know. I think enough people would have caught it online.
No, a foreign film with subtitles in America. Come on, there's too many people. We would have saw it, and we would have begged you to watch it on Twitter and on Facebook.
What was that? Roma that came out last year that was on Netflix that won a bunch of awards and got nominated for Best Picture.
It's few and far between. Like there's so many movies that just would have never saw the love or the light of day, and that's my biggest thing about the theater is that opportunity. That's all they want is that one chance, because there's movies that get second showings because they did little by little, they did great in their first showing, and then they get nominated for an award, and then you see them come back for a second viewing. And with streaming, there's not that opportunity. You see Netflix cutting stuff off at the ankles like a week or two after it comes out. They put out a show called Hoops, which admittedly I never watched because it's not my cup of tea. But they've already said they canceled it. They're not doing any more, and it just came out like last month. With everything going streaming, it is no longer a seller's market. Netflix, HBO Max, and Amazon Prime own the industry right now. And if they don't want you to be seen, guess what? You're done. There's no Sundance. There's no nothing for you. We've cut the cable. All we have left is streaming and theaters. And if they take the theaters away, or if they even make the theaters more minuscule, that's going to kill so many chances.
I don't disagree, but I'm going to take this year as an example. And I agree that this year is an anomaly because there weren't any theaters. Most of the movies that are going to be nominated for Oscars this coming year are going to be Amazon and Netflix films, because prior to March, March and beyond, everything that's come out since then has been on Amazon and Netflix. So that model has already been instituted in place where people are going to be like, okay, so this Netflix film is probably going to win Best Picture. This Amazon film with whoever is probably going to win Best Actor. This, you know what I mean? So they've already set the tone for that. So I'm going to slightly disagree, because I think that they've already set the tone, because now people are going to go, well, okay, well, maybe we need to step back and take a look at some of these Netflix and Amazon films that are winning Best Picture, that are winning Best Actor, that are winning Best Actress. And you can argue that this year's an anomaly because that was the only platform that was available. But now if I'm an independent filmmaker and I got a film that is on the bubble, whether it's going to be a huge hit at the box office, I'm going to be like, why don't I just stream it on Netflix and see what happens there? Because maybe it's an independent film, but guess what? It can gain traction if critics still review the film and they still review it favorably, because that dictates the market, not the viewers, not the moviegoers. They don't care that Fast and Furious made $2 billion at the box office. They care what the critics have to say, and the critics are still going to watch those streaming films. Those are the ones that dictate. So to your point, Parasite, that was critics generated. People might like it. It could be a big hit, but until critics co-sign on it and say, this was the best movie of the year, this is on my top 10 list for 2019, I think that's what's really going to start driving the market. Because let's be honest, critics advanced screening on it, so the critics are already given the great reviews on it, and that's what's driving people to go see those independent films. Those independent films just don't come out of nowhere. They, that are winning, all the awards. It's critics that are co-signing on it. There's very few films that are big blockbuster hits that are getting nominated for Big Picture, even though everybody and their grandma went to go see it, but it was just a popcorn film that we forgot about 20 minutes after we got done seeing it. So I don't know. I think that if you stream a film on Netflix, it's an independent film that's got a great cast or whatever case may be, and critics pre-screen that film and they say this film is amazing, everybody should see it. Everybody and their grandma's going to watch it on Netflix, and then it's still going to win awards. It's still going to get nominated. It'll still be at the Academy. That's my take. And anybody can chime in here. I don't know.
I'm waiting for Jason.
Waiting on you.
Yeah, sorry, it was glitching a little bit there, but yeah, sorry. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know where I fall on that one. I think I kind of agree with both of you guys on that one. I do think that there are options for the lower budgeted films to have a bigger platform on streaming, because like Kier saying, it doesn't take as much money to put them out, and they do tend to be reviewed by critics and favorably reviewed, and people on social media can turn any of those digital streaming movies into like a gotta see it kind of thing. Like, I mean, look at Bird Box, just for the example off the top of my head. That became a must-see movie, even though it's not really an award type of movie for sure, obviously. But I don't know. I don't know where I fall on that one. With the more moderately budgeted movies, I think it could go either way on that. Sorry, I don't know who I agree with on that one.
I know that there was a movie that came out last year, maybe end of 2019, early 2020, called Fury, and I loved it. Furie, and it's a movie set in Vietnam, and it's about a Vietnamese woman whose daughter gets kidnapped and by human traffickers, and she goes and hunts them down, and it's a action / martial arts movie, and it's one of the best martial arts movies I've seen in the past 20 years. Like, it's between that and Yip Man as the best that I've seen in the past couple years. And I ran into that at the end of this year, just solely on accident. I was going through Vudu, and I saw the reviews on Vudu, like the ratings, the Rotten Tomato ratings, and it was like a 96. And I was like, oh yeah, I got to check this out, and I'm glad I did. The other movie that was like that I stumbled upon was The Old Guard. Everybody's seen The Old Guard at this juncture, but when it first came out, it was one of the ones that what I do when I go on Netflix is I don't go any further than my list, continue watching, and the top 10 watched in America or whatever it may be. And it was like number 2. So I was like, oh, cool, I'm gonna watch this immediately. And I'm super happy I did. But I don't go below those 3 things, and not going below those 3 things, which I'm sure a lot of people are in the same boat. We're missing out on opportunities that may be there. So, I mean, even if you go to the movie theater, you can always miss something. There's always something. There's not enough time in the world to watch every movie that gets made. Something's going to get missed. You're going to watch something that's absolutely horrid. You're going to not understand something that was acclaimed by everybody else. And that's okay. I'm just worried that if enough people let enough of these independent pitches go past the plate because they're waiting on a good pitch, that the movie, the producers are just going to stop throwing those type of pitches, that they're just going to stop throwing out the independent movies. And this past couple years has taught me that while I love the blockbusters, I'm not the biggest fan of Fast and Furious. But while I love the blockbusters, my soul thrives on those independent, quiet movies that just touch you and make you go home and say, I saw this today. I experienced this today.
No, I agree. Yeah.
Everybody experiences Marvel movies. Everybody sees DC movies.
Yeah, and I think those films are still going to come out in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's going to die down, but so locally in Sacramento, we have the Tower Theater, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any given time, they have what, 4 or 5 films that are playing at any given time.
Yeah.
3 of them are probably, are getting good reviews. 2 of them, you know what I mean, no one even cares about. So those 2 or 3 films that nobody really cares about at the Tower Theater, I don't see those films. I think if I'm a production company and I have the option to stream those films, do I release it in those small theaters like Tower, or do I go to, Amazon or Hulu or whatever and see what happens?
Mm-hmm. I could see the risk reward in putting, because I know the movie you're talking about from Tower. I can see the risk reward in putting those movies
because they're not all good. I mean, I go
Hulu.
there and I'm like, I've never even heard of like 3 of these. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
There's 2 that maybe you heard of or come across in passing, and that's because critics really favored it. But there's always like 2 or 3 that like maybe were middle of the road. You know what I mean? The critics didn't like go, crazy over it, but they said it was a decent film, so you go, well, maybe I'll check it out. It didn't get terrible reviews, you know what I mean? But I feel like if I'm a theater, or a production company, I'm like, do I even want to roll the dice on that, or just go straight to streaming and see if I can make a buck that way? I don't know.
And it's strange to me to say this out loud, but I feel like the movie theaters also have almost a symbiotic relationship with the newspapers, like Sac News and Review. One of the things that I really loved to do when I was at work was sit back and read what they thought of these movies and what they thought the gem of the week was, and what they thought of the plays that are going on in the area. And without theaters this year, honestly, I haven't looked at the News and Review this entire year. And I can't say that I'm going to go back to watch or go back to reading it. And I mean, really, that's also in small part because there's no News and Review boxes near my house, but there's some near my job. So that has a big bearing on it. Okay. But one of the things that I really enjoyed, I realized I could live without. And that's scary to see how quickly you can find that you can live without something.
That goes to my other point, and Jason and I have had this conversation before. In my opinion, I think people are reading reviews less as well. I think that look at Entertainment Weekly, People Magazine, the reviews on those, people aren't reading that stuff anymore. They want the quick and skinny. They would rather watch, some big, movie reviewer on YouTube and see what he has to say in his quick 10-minute, spot on it. I thought it was good. Okay, I'm going to go check it out. You know what I mean? They'd rather watch a quick little thing and have you tell them whether that film was good verbally than have to actually read, 5-6 paragraphs, and then, or just skip directly down. Because even I've done that before. I start reading it, I'm like, yeah, blah, 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 yeah. And then there's that side of me that doesn't want to read too much of it because they give away spoilers in those, or they give you the whole story. There's some reviewers that'll give you the play-by-play of the whole film, and you feel like you've seen it by the time you've got done reading the story of it. And so that's also been counterproductive. So sometimes I'll read the skim of it and I'll go straight to the bottom to see what the review was. So I think people are reading reviews less. I think that's the other thing that's going to be a problem with that. I think that everybody wants everything instant now. They want to be able to watch a quick 5-minute review of something versus having to read 10, 15 minutes to figure out whether or not they want to go see the film. That's just my take.
Yeah.
You can chime in, Jason. You had something to say.
I think most people don't. I think that's a separate problem from COVID-19 though. I mean, that's always been the thing. I think 95% of the viewing public before this year, I think, doesn't really care about what the critics have to say, to be honest. I mean, they might see the commercials that pop up 5 stars everywhere, and they think maybe that piques their interest a little bit, but for the most part, I think the average movie-going public, they go see what they want to go see. They don't care what the critics think. I don't think most people even watch YouTube reviews. Really, they go see what they want to go see. So I think that's kind of an old argument. I think that's always been the case, honestly. You know what I mean? And I think the smaller movies at the Tower Theater, the 2 that you've never heard of, those movies have always been at the risk of getting the axe. But I hope they don't. And I certainly pay attention to the critics, but I don't think most people do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but then it goes back to my point. Those 2 or 3 films, do they now, does a production company now take the risk of airing it at the Crest or airing it at, Tower, or do they just say, you know what, let's just save our bank and get the money we can and just go and stream this? And then to your point, they're not. I think that that's already been a trend. I think that COVID is not the only trend of people wanting to start getting things streaming and that sort of stuff. I think that trend was that ball's already been rolling. Just like he brought up earlier, how movie theaters are now trying to make it more convenient. All the theaters now, they all want to do leather seats, and they all want to start having alcohol, and they all want to start having real food, at theaters, because they're trying to find different ways to keep people going to the theater. I think because people are wanting more convenience, because people are starting to make that case or make that argument. Well, why go to the theater when I can stay at home and eat a steak and have a beer? So if you're a casual moviegoer, they're going to have to keep upping the ante to get that casual moviegoer to go. You're a cinephile. You're a movie buff. You're a guy that loves to go to theaters. Both of you guys are. We all are. We love to go to theaters. We don't have a problem with that, but we're not looking at what the average American is doing. The average American is not a cinephile. The average American, I think, goes to maybe one movie every other month or something like that. That's not the 3 of us. And they usually go see the big blockbuster film. If you give that average moviegoer opportunities to watch a film that's streaming versus having to go to the theater, that average moviegoer goes to maybe one movie once every month, or once a month, to once every 6 months, or twice a year, or something of that nature. And I think that generally just continues to decrease over time. I think that the more options you give somebody to watch a good quality film at home, that has kids, that has a family, that's an average moviegoer, I don't see them going to the theater more than a couple times a year, personally, over time. I think that it's going to slowly drift in that direction. And I think that studios are going to see that as well. And they're already starting to do, that's why they're ramping up, the streaming services. That's why they're already starting to get better films, better quality films on Amazon and on Netflix and that sort of stuff. So I don't know. I don't think that theaters are going to disappear. I don't think that it's going to go away completely. I think there's always going to be a place for a theater, because there's always going to be people like us that want to go to theaters. There will be families that still want to go occasionally, but I think it's going to be at a much more limited capacity. I think that instead of having like 5-6 theaters, on every other corner, I think you're going to have to, you're going to have a couple theaters here and there. You know what I mean? You're going to have to drive to a couple theaters, and I don't think that you're going to see as many films at the theaters. I don't think you're going to go to the theaters and there's going to be, 7 new movies that came out. You know what I mean? I think it's going to be like 1 or 2 big movies that came out, and the rest were all older movies or something. Not old, but like a couple of weeks ago or a month ago or whatever, that are still trying to scoop up as much money as they can. I don't know. I just don't think that it's going to be the same capacity that it once was. I think that market is changing, and I think it already started. When students,
the market not only is changing in the theaters, it's changing right now just in streaming. Like when Disney put out Mulan, and they were saying, okay, we're going to put out Mulan on Disney Plus, but if you're a Disney Plus subscriber, you still have to pay $30 in order to unlock it and see it when it first came out in November or October, when it first came out. And roundly, people were like, well, forget that. And everybody just sat back and twiddled their thumbs until it came out for free on Disney Plus in December. And then you see this mass group of people watching it in December. I'm sure Disney took note of that. Like, okay, us doing this not only angered our viewing base, but the numbers at the beginning weren't there. And it suddenly spiked in December when we made it available to everybody. Same thing when they made Hamilton available streaming immediately around the 4th of July. So many people saw that show that it became their #1 film for a very long time. Same thing for Black is King by Beyonce. Because with streaming, we are now, as much as I hate to say this, we are now feeding the beast that we tried to kill in the movie theater, which is the people who live on their phones during movies, the people who are tweeting during movies, the people who are on Instagram during movies. Now they can do it unopposed because they're watching from home, and they're reaching a bigger audience who then organically are bringing these people who want to now see the movie because their faves might be watching this movie on Twitter, or their fave might be discussing this movie on Facebook, and now they want to watch it so they can be a part of the in group that are watching this movie. So that may be something that as time goes on, the streaming groups really get behind and start saying hashtag this when you're watching this movie, or tweet this in order, if you watch this movie on this day, one of the stars will be there to tweet back with you. They'll have a live tweet or an AMA on Reddit if you watch this on this day, and their numbers just spike. They can't do that in the movie theater because as soon as they pick up the phone, somebody's going to hit them in the back of the head with a full cup of soda.
Right.
So
yeah, I think that's also going back to your point that, you know, we're of a generation where we like going to the theaters. But we're also of a generation where when we were kids or we were growing up, you didn't have cell phones. The worst you had was maybe a baby in the theater and maybe somebody occasionally talking. That was mostly what you had. You didn't have people with a bunch of bright lights in the screen as a kid going to the theaters. But these kids, they grew up on that stuff. That's their generation. And these kids are so attached to their phone, they have to check their phone every 5-10 minutes. You know, they're not going to be able to sit. They just don't have the attention span to sit through a 2.5 hour movie without texting or checking their phone or making sure someone didn't call them. So that's why I think that streaming is going to be a bigger focus moving forward, because kids are going to want that. Kids are going to prefer to be able to, like you said, sit at home and you know, because, you know, that generation, they don't care to go to the movies. They're not huge into it like that. There's a few kids that maybe are cinephiles or whatever case may be, but your average teenager, they would be fine just watching it at home and streaming. So like you said, they can tweet when they can pause it, they can come back to it, they can pause it and have a conversation with their friend or whatever case may be, and then go back to it and finish it later. You know, so I think that convenience for those kids, I think that's going to be a driving market, because that's the generation that the movie theaters and the production companies are going to be placating to. You know, it's always about what the younger generation wants. You know, we sound like three old guys talking about the good old days when, you know, it was good to go to the theaters and watch a movie and things of that nature. But I don't know that the younger generation cares that much. Outside of a few kids, I mean, sure, we all know some kids that love going.
I don't know, man. I don't know, because I mean, I remember, it hasn't been that long ago, but I remember, you know, I mean, to my chagrin, a lot of the times I remember seeing, you know, huge packs of teenagers at the movies, especially on Fridays and Saturday nights. I don't think it's as unheard of for younger audiences to go to the movies. I mean, I don't think it's been that long. I mean, I remember seeing huge groups of teenagers every weekend
because they didn't have the option
at screenings.
I'm saying, I get what you're saying, but I'm saying that's because they didn't have that option. If you make it convenient for them, which they already are starting to do they still want to go to the theater?
I don't know. They like going out.
Do they? That documentary that we watched says that they don't. They said that most kids today don't even go out on their first date until they graduate from high school. Most kids today don't go to the parks. They're not at the playgrounds. You don't see kids in the neighborhood. Most kids today are not big on going to the mall. Some will go, but they don't go as much as they used to back in our generation. They don't like going out that much anymore. They don't. They would rather be at home on their phones. I got 3 kids at home right now that we have to almost kick out of the house.
I think, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess I say the same thing I did, you know, a while ago, which is that I think this is it's been a thriving business for over 100 years for people of all ages, and there's nothing like it. Like Derik said, there's nothing that compares to seeing the communal experience of seeing a film on a big screen. And maybe I'm old-fashioned, maybe I'm overly optimistic, but I truly, like I said before, I don't think that a thriving business for all ages for over 100 years is going to be I do think people will go back to what they were used to doing not that long ago. It really hasn't been that long.
Do you think it'll be the same capacity that it was prior to COVID? You think that people are going to be back to business as usual prior to COVID? You think that movies are still going to, you think that it's going to be the same
No,
now
I think
movies coming out versus going streaming prior to COVID? You don't think that COVID is going to have any effect, lasting effect?
I don't know. Something like that is going to be kind of hard to predict. Something like that will be hard to predict. But I think that I don't know. Something like that is hard to predict. I'm sure it will have some kind of effect. I'm not saying streaming is going away.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. There's going to be a spike. As soon as they, release the COVID whatever movie theaters, we're getting movies coming out to theaters. I think there's going to be that initial spike where everybody runs out super excited, super jazzed to see it. But I think there's going to be so many films that are already dedicated to going to streaming that's going to be like a 50-50 wash. And I think that over time, more people are going to start doing the streaming. That's what I think is going to happen. I think the movie theaters are still going to be around because you're still going to have the big blockbuster films. I think that those are still there. But I guess
we'll see.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to be able to get away from my family every so often and fall into a world of wonder. If they can do that for me, I'll pay. Even if they make it like it is now, where it's really a movie club that I'm a part of, I will gladly pay every month just to have the opportunity to get away and check out some stuff. And then I'll come home and I'll gladly watch movies with my family. Like, yeah, I'm the only person in my family who goes to the movies right now.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's not viable to have in my neighborhood right now. Yeah, literally, there are 3 movie theaters in a 6-block span. The one that was just built at Delta Shores, the one that's on Center Parkway next to the 24-Hour Fitness, and then there's a Cinemark that is on Bighorn. We're not that big of a neighborhood. We're not Roseville rich. We're not any of that. I mean, we're okay, but so to have 3 theaters taking people into 3 different directions, I don't know who approved that. I don't know who approved building a second Regal, because the one at Delta Shores is the Regal, and then the one on Central Parkway is Regal. So they're literally cannibalizing their own customers by doing that. A lot of these things I don't agree with. It's like the movie theaters right now are in that place where the housing market was when the bubble burst. A lot of people kept buying bigger and bigger and putting more and more into their mortgage and putting down stuff they didn't have, thinking that the market was going to sustain them. And then the market burst. Right now, the market is burst on movie theaters. The question is, what are you going to do now? How are you going to sustain this? Can you stand the rain? And I'm curious to see who can and who can't.
Yeah, no, it's the same. I feel like it's the same thing with, like we said, growing up, malls were a big thing. Look how many malls have closed down in the area. Look at all the malls that closed. You had the one off of K Street. You had the one, there was supposed to be one out in Elk Grove that never materialized. You had the one on K Street. You had the Florin Mall.
Rest in peace, Florin Mall.
Yeah, so even malls are starting to condense down now. You know what I mean? Sunrise Mall is basically a ghost town now. No one goes to that one. So you have Arden, which is already getting kind of sketchy because people are getting shot and killed there, and then you have Roseville. You know what I mean? So everything is starting to like condense down, and I think that's going to happen with theaters. I think that they're going to slowly start rolling back. I think there's always going to be a place in the market for theaters because there's always going to be people like us that like to go to the theaters. But that's one person. That's not the families. That's not 5 people going to the theaters. I think that market is going to start shifting. I think you give people the option to stream. I just feel like they're gonna take their chances with the streaming film versus let's all get up, gas up the car, and go to the theater and spend $120. I think
that the only way the theaters are going to make it in the future, and I'll gladly do it. I mean, because I was on Twitter every week asking Regal when they were going to do the Regal Unlimited until they started doing it. Like I was on their back until they started doing it.
And that's the other thing they're having to start doing. They're having to do these. I think that's another thing that they're trying to do is to do this.
They're going to have to. They're going to have to
and the
do where you pay
and
money
the membership because people aren't going to shell out $24 to go see a movie. You know what I mean? That's the other thing. They're just not going to pay for it. You know, they're going to have some sort of pass or something of that nature. You're going to have to continue. They're already doing it. They're already trying to like incentivize you to go to the theater. You know, like I said, with the movie passes, with the plush seats, with the beers and the steak dinner and all this other kind of stuff. But these are all I think these are all short-term fixes that I don't think is gonna last over the long haul. I don't know if 20 years from now those fixes are still going to drive people out. I don't know. You know, unless something completely changes in the next, you know, like I said, 10 years where, you know, I don't know. I just think that things are already moving in the streaming direction. And I continue to see that making more inroads into the movie theater watching. So like I said, I think there's always going to be a place for theaters, but I think that outside of, you know, the strong cinephiles that love to go to the movies, that love to go all the time, they go see, you know, 10 movies well, Jason probably 10 movies a week. But I think that outside of those people, I don't know. I don't know. I definitely don't see it sustaining to what it once was. I definitely think there's going to be a shift. And I think that's my argument, but we'll see. We'll see what happens, you know. But yeah,
I guess we'll see. None of us can tell the future.
Yeah, no, I don't have a crystal ball. I mean, I could be wrong, and maybe we're all wrong. Maybe there's something completely changes. You know, who knows? You know, but I you know, I'm just going by what I see, and I'm not claiming that I'm an expert or I have a crystal ball or I know exactly what's going to happen. I only know that I already saw what was happening in movie theaters prior to that. You know, I saw the memberships, which I took note of. You know what I mean? I saw the you know, the plush seats and the studio movie grills and that kind of stuff. That was the enticement.
I don't think that's the same thing, though. Honestly, I think that was more about creating a luxury experience. I don't think that was. I don't see that as like, oh my God, we're dying. We better like have memberships and stuff like that. I thought that was just about giving a better deal to people and providing a luxury experience. Like you don't have to go to a restaurant before you come to the movie. You can come to the restaurant and go to the movie at the same time. I didn't see that as like some kind of death knell for the theaters that offering those things. Maybe I just missed it. I don't know, but I don't think that's the same thing. Really.
But I'm saying definitely
like the mall, the Downtown Plaza Mall. Yeah, I was gonna, like that. I mean, that was a shopping center that was replaced by an arena and more shops. You know, a different area for people to walk around and shop. That wasn't like the death of shopping. That was just like that place needed an overhaul. You know what I mean? So I don't think, I don't know. I think we're talking about a lot of different things at the same time, which are all interesting subjects.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I guess we'll see. You know, like I said, I don't know if there's any more that you know we can discuss here that's gonna, you know, be like the slam dunk. I mean, I think we all are. I don't think we're all necessarily arguing or we're all completely disagreeing with each other. I just think that we all have a different view of exactly what might transpire. You know, I think that the three of us, I think that if you ask hard pressed the three of us, did COVID make a difference long-term effect? I think that we would all say maybe in some capacity, but I think there's just various degrees of what we think that's going to be. You know, I don't think any of us think the theaters are going to just completely be gone or be wiped off the planet. But I definitely think that streaming will make some inroads into the movie going experience. And I think that it was already starting to do that prior, and I think it may continue to make some inroads. To what degree, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball to tell you what degree that's going to be at, but and I hope not. I don't want to be negative. I don't want to be pessimistic and say, you know, the theaters are going to go, because I like going to the movies. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love going to the movies. I love going to dinner and then going to a movie. I love just going to the movie on a whim and seeing something on the big screen. But, you know, I'm of a generation that's what we did. You know, I don't know that the younger generation is as invested, even though you do see young kids going to the theaters. I don't know. The younger kids just don't seem like they're as invested in some of the things that we grew up and the things that we love doing.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up going to the park and playing basketball. I don't see kids doing that today. Basketball courts are empty.
Yeah.
I grew up, you went to the park and you got on the playground, you went on the merry-go-round. I don't see as many kids doing that today. The playgrounds are all empty. The malls, they're still crowded. There's still people there. Don't get me wrong, but I do definitely see the malls are starting to scale back. And like you said, there are more shopping centers that are popping up, but that's not the same. That's not the same as a mall. That's not the same as going into a building and walking around and seeing friends and eating at the food court and that kind of stuff. You're going into Target and you're getting something. You're going into Macy's on a strip and you're getting something, and then you're going home. That's a different experience. So it's not the same thing. It's not the same as a mall. It's not that mall experience, getting on the escalator and getting a pizza and that kind of stuff. So I do see that demographic changing a little bit. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what the next, like I said, 5-10 years look like. But I definitely think that the market is going to change. That's just my opinion. But no, this was a great discussion. I think it's great. I don't know that any of us have all the answers, but I definitely think that if you're watching this video and you want to chime in, you're more than welcome to leave a comment for us down below, or let us know your thoughts on what the state of the movie industry is going to be. It's a fascinating discussion, but as three guys that clearly love to watch movies, I think that we all kind of hope that it doesn't completely go away, and we hope that big movies still come out. But I do have my concerns, and I do question some things. So we'll see what happens. And the other thing is, it also probably factors how long COVID's going to last for. If they can get this thing wrapped up next year, that makes a big difference versus if we go through another year like we went through 2020. If 2021 replicates 2020, then I'm really concerned about what the state of the movie theaters or just things in general. Because, all of these movie theaters are holding on by a vine as there is. Half of them have already filed for bankruptcy. So that's a scary thought as well. So I don't know. But yeah, I thank you guys for joining. It was great having you, Derik. I think we had a great discussion. I think we should do another one of these again sometime, man. It was fun. I had a good time. How about you, Jason?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, cool. Well, hopefully you had a good experience chatting it up with us, Derik. We'll, like I said, we'll definitely have more discussions like these moving in the future. Maybe once we, theaters start opening, we can come back again and discuss, what's happening with that. So, but cool. Well, anything else either one of you guys wanted to add?
Yes. If anybody ever does watch a movie at home streaming, I'm hip. I'm okay with that. I understand. It's the world. And you don't want to go out to eat, but you do want to eat something that is substantial and good and helps out small businesses, Black-owned business. I run a catering company called Consistently Good. We make everything from prime rib all the way down to hot links. Like we just finished our first cauliflower crust pizza and put our homemade barbecue sauce on it and some turkey and some cheese, and I'm sure it's going to be incredible. We do hamburgers, we do everything, and we're available whenever you need us. Just give us a call or go on Facebook. We're there at Consistently Good Catering, or on Instagram we're at Consistently Good, and check out the menu, check out the pictures, and give us a call. We are completely aware of allergies. We have children with allergies, so there's no nuts in any of our foods, as well as being aware of gluten, gluten-free noodles and wheat noodles and vegan meals and everything. We are literally the best chefs I know. So check us out. You definitely won't be disappointed.
All right, well, sounds good, man. We'll definitely check them out, and like I said, support local small businesses if you're here in the Sacramento area for sure. Well, we thank you guys for watching. As always, we'll be back again with another show here for you guys real soon. We hope you guys enjoyed the discussion. Like I said, you're free to leave a comment down below, give us a like, a thumbs up if you enjoyed the discussion. And as always, make sure you subscribe and make sure you hit the bell notification so you don't miss any of our updates or any of our uploads. And we'll be back again with another show for you guys real soon. And we hope you have a great day and have a happy new year. All right. Bye.